Hello everyone, today we are watching a science fiction movie called Multiverse. In the beginning, we see a girl named Loretta explaining how she is going to contact another multiverse. Her idea is that when she tries to find a different universe, another version of herself will try to. That's how she is eventually going to talk with herself. Then we see her team. There is a boy called Gary, another boy called Danny and a deaf girl named Amy. Danny is the boyfriend of Loretta. We see them trying to figure out how they can contact the same, or almost identical dimension. For that to work, they need to have a lot of particles to match at both dimensions. Loretta figures out that they need to use water because that changes from shape all the time. She figured it out because she was looking at a bowl with one fish in it when she was thinking. They are traveling to a place with a lot of water when they crash into another car. The car that crashed into them is on a cliff and is about to fall. Loretta wants to help them, but gets dragged along in the cliff and is dead. The next scene is 5 months later. Both of the boys were scared because they thought they saw Loretta. But that isn't possible because she is dead. In the meantime, Amy talks with her mother about how much she misses her dad because he died a few years ago. The trio meet up in a bar and were talking about why they stopped the search for another dimension. Next, we see Jerry in a lab with 2 fishes instead of 1. He gets a call from someone named Loretta and she talks like her too. He gets mad because he thinks it is a prank. Then we see Amy and Danny hugging in the hallway because they are lovers now. Suddenly, the supposed to be dead Loretta shows up and is mad at them because she thinks she and Danny are still together. The group comes together and explains to Loretta that she died. Loretta doesn't know where they are talking about and says that she has been with them these 5 months. Then they realized that she is from another dimension. Amy thinks Loretta is just crazy and got hit on the head when she fell in the cliff. And they get mad at each other. In the evening, Gary, Danny, and Amy suddenly have a lot of pain and they don't know where it is coming from. In the extreme pain, they see pictures of themselves in another place. In the morning, when the pain has stopped, they go back to school. They find out that there was someone at the lab and the lab has a different layout. They also find out that one of the fishes is dead. The fish that is dead is the fish that crossed over from Loretta's dimension to here. Now they are worrying that Loretta is going to die soon too. In the next scene, we see Gary at the doorstep of his home. He finds out that the door is open and the alarm is turned off. He hears that there is someone at his home and runs towards the noise. By the way everything is laying, you can see the burglar was searching for something specific. Gary gets angry when he sees that the burglar drives away. Next, we see that Loretta is calling her parents. She is so emotional because in her dimension they died that she can't speak and hangs up. Then we see Loretta talking to Amy. She wants to settle the beef with her and succeed. They are now friends again. After this, we see Gary and Danny in the basement of the school. They are talking about what they need to do with Loretta because they think she will die just like the fish. Then Gary asks how Danny is so certain that the fish that crossed over is dead instead of their fish. Danny doesn't have an answer for that. Then Gary says that he is from the same dimension as Loretta. That means there is more than one Danny, Gary, and Amy on this world. Because a universe can't sustain 2 identical versions of the same mass, one of them must go. That is why the trio from the original world all had extreme pain at the same moment. It turned out that Gary drugged Danny. He did this because he wants to kill him and to save his friend from the same universe. In the next scene we see Loretta, Danny, and Gary at a bar. Danny kisses Loretta because in the alternate universe they are still lovers. Gary gets mad because Danny is with Amy. It turned out that Danny is from the different universe. Danny and Gary are mad at each other because they both do not understand what is happening. Then we see that Danny gets into a car. Gary from the same dimension as him is waiting for him there. He tells what is happening and Danny is shocked. Gary says that he needs to kill the original Gary because he killed the real Danny for him. Danny tells him that he is not killing anyone. Next, we see Amy in the room of Danny. She wants to kiss him because she still thinks he is her boyfriend. But then finds out that she is talking to Danny from the other universe. She asks where the real Danny is and storms off. Then we see the Amy from the other universe coming into her own house. She finds out that she is not from this universe and freaks out. She found it out because the real Amy is deaf and she isn't. She calls Gary from the first universe, but Gary thinks it is another prank call because Amy is deaf and can't speak. Then he FaceTimes her and freaks out when he finds out it is real. Amy sees that it is not the Gary from her universe and hangs up. The real Gary and Amy meet up, and Amy says that there can only be one of them. In the next scene, we see the fake Gary with Loretta somewhere next to a road. Gary tells her that he is from the same universe as she is and wants to make the same device they used to get here to get back. After this, we see Gary knocking on the door of Denny. He pretends to be the fake Gary so he can get information on what happened to the real Denny. Denny finds out and says that the real Denny is dead. He also says that the Gary that killed him and has gone crazy because he thinks this is all a dream. Then we see the real Amy come home. She is weaker than normal and has more pain too. She gets into her room and closes the door. Then she sees the fake Amy just sitting on her bed. They talk for a bit and the fake Amy leaves. The real Amy follows her and they end up at a lake. The fake Amy gets in and says that this was the way into the world, so now she will go back. It wasn't the way out and the fake Amy drowns. A little bit later we see Loretta in the room of Denny. They are thinking what to do with Gary because he lost his mind. Loretta finds out that the Gary from her universe killed the real Denny and she loses it. Next, we see Gary going to his room and seeing the fake Gary there. The fake one tries to kill the real Gary, but at the last moment Loretta, Amy, and Denny show up. They overpower the fake Gary and the real Gary kills him. Now there aren't any clones anymore. That means there is no reason to fight or don't trust anyone. They are driving home when they get into a car crash. It is the same one as before, but now they are the people who fall off the cliff. The beginning of the movie started playing again to indicate that it is a loop. This is the end of the movie. Thank you for watching.